Israel's relations with Christian communities is extremely important, extremely important in this country. I myself sat on a round table inside Washington, D.C. In February, where the Prime Minister met leaders of the evangelical community. They are an extremely important ally to Israel. We take them extremely seriously. We are, of course, Christianity is a younger brother of Judaism in a certain sense, and we take that relationship extremely seriously. There is no crisis. Where there is a crisis is that the pro-Hamas movement are trying to engineer a crisis. This is purely an engineered crisis. We take our relationship with the Christian community extremely seriously. Israel is the only country where the number of Christians are increasing. It's the only country in hundreds of miles in any direction where Christians are free to practice their faith freely without restrictions. Of course, where there are issues on an individual basis, then they are condemned, and they are and they should be. And more can always be done in that sense. But this country takes our relationship with the Christian community extremely importantly, and that will continue to be the case under this government. And finally, you got a question there. Just one more. Just go up there. You asking for comment on Ozzy Osbourne, who supported Israel. We, of course, from the State of Israel, send our condolences to the family of Ozzy Osbourne, who passed away recently. Next question, please. It's Jodie Cohen at Newsmax. What more can you tell us about the conversations between Steve Witkoff and Israeli officials regarding ceasefire and hostage release negotiations? Is more pressure being placed on Hamas to agree to a deal? And what will be the next steps if Hamas doesn't agree? Thank you for that question, Jodie. Look, the Hamas terrorist organization continues. They continue to cling to its refusal. And the latest information I can give you that Israel at this moment is still awaiting an official response via the mediators of Hamas. But to this point, I can share with you that Hamas have continued to refuse. They are continuing to refuse the hostage return proposal, which Israel has agreed to. Consistently, Israel has agreed and Hamas have not agreed. Israel has agreed to the Qatari proposal and the updated Witkoff framework. It is Hamas, unfortunately, which persists in its refusal, and they have been setting unacceptable conditions. So the Israeli negotiating team is still in Doha, and these talks are continuing, and they will continue because our objective is to get our hostages home. As you know, in Gaza, there are 50 hostages still remaining, the living and those already murdered, cruelly abducted by the terrorist organization Hamas. Look, it's 656 days now. 656 days of appalling captivity. 20 of our hostages remain alive. That's the latest information we have. We, from our point of view here in Israel, have a moral and ethical obligation to do everything possible, and that is precisely what we are doing, and we will not rest, and the Prime Minister has repeated this again and again and again. We will not rest until every single last one of them are home. The dead for a decent burial, for closure for their families, to be reunited with their families, and for burial in Israel, and the living, so they can begin to rebuild their lives from their appalling ideal. I would just say to you that if the international media and the international community put as much pressure on Hamas to release our hostages than it has done over the last few days of this false claim of famine in Gaza, this false claim of famine, where the famine, hunger which has been orchestrated by the terrorist organization, then our hostages would have been home a long time ago. So our efforts to secure their return continue constantly. We're in coordination with the US. The Prime Minister is in personal contact with the President, President Trump, as well as with Steve Witkoff. And look, since the October 7th terror attack, we've managed to get back 205 people from Gaza. That's no mean feat. Our experts were saying that none of them would come.